Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey everybody, so we're here with our good friend and fellow spooky season fan, David Weiner, to talk about his latest project. But before we get into that, David, I know you've been on the show before, but for those who are tuning into one of your interviews for the first time, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am just a man. A man whose last name is sometimes pronounced correctly, sometimes not. But you guys got it right because we've been around this block before, so I'm happy to be back, and I really appreciate it. For those who don't know who I am, my name is David Weiner. These days, I'm a documentary filmmaker, but I have a checkered past that goes like a laundry list in the entertainment industry of movies, TV, music videos, commercials, development, online, internet, boom and bust, startups, Entertainment Tonight, Famous Monsters, Filmland Magazine. There's a lot you can find out about me if you go to itcamefromblog.com and you read the about. That should pretty much cover it.
Well, we'll do next time, I guess, Tim, we just send a link in the beginning. We don't need to make poor David go through that whole thing. No, we love when you come on too, of course, because we're all seem to be the fans of all the same thing, and so it's always fun to talk about it. But what I want to do before we get into your project, though, I really want to know. Since, obviously we're all fans of the old school horror, but I want to know what's some of the more recent horror films that you've enjoyed.
Well, just last night, I decided to have a bit of a palate cleanser because these days doing In Search of Darkness movies or anything 80s, I've been doing In Search of Darkness 1 and 2 and prepping for 3, and In Search of Tomorrow, which it's all 80s sci-fi or 80s horror. So as much as I live, breathe, and eat 80s movies, I like other decades. And so I did this wonderful palate cleanser last night. I did a double feature of, I watched Trilogy of Terror.
Oh, I love that.
From 1975, Karen Black. It's a classic. Most people, even if they don't know Trilogy of Terror, they've probably heard of it, and or at least the Zuni fetish doll.
Yeah.
And that's the one I know inside out. But I've never really seen Trilogy of Terror, the other two part of the trilogy. I've never seen them, just sitting there and watching all three back to back. William F. Nolan, Richard Matheson wrote these, and it's pretty impressive. It's sort of the Twilight Zone for terror, and it's really good stuff. So I watched that, and then I did a chaser of a classic Bela Lugosi movie, and I want to make sure I got the title right.
Tim will correct you if it's wrong.
Well, the movie is less of a movie. It's more like it's like an hour and 15 minutes. It's called Spooks Run Wild. And it's this classic. It's almost is it the East End kids? Now I should be knowing what I'm talking about as I talk about this. But there's it's not the Bowery Boys, but when the Bowery Boys were big back in the day, which is way back in the day, a lot of people like to do similar types of sort of anti-hero goofy gangs getting into trouble. And so this goofy gang gets into trouble by going to a haunted house, and there's Bela Lugosi just being Bela Lugosi, and they're afraid of him simply just by seeing him. But he's got his own little secret. But because, by virtue that he's Bela Lugosi, he's also taller than everybody. He's just really tall. You forget how tall he is until you see him next to a bunch of people who are 5 foot, 9 and below. It's just really fun. I really enjoy seeing classic horror, and if it's black and white, all the better. And I'll throw in one more thing, is I did watch Halloween Kills. So if you guys want to weigh in on that polarizing film, I'm happy to share my opinion.
That's funny because that's our movie of the week. We haven't recorded it yet, but that is going to be our movie of the week we're going to discuss. And I think Tim and I might differ slightly on how much we liked it. I definitely on the higher end of liking it, even though I do recognize that it had some issues. But I still, maybe I'm still caught in the glow. I don't know, that of it, but I still thought it had a lot of great stuff in it. So I still overall like really enjoyed it. So I don't know if Tim wants to give a little bit of his peek.
My sneak peek before our big show is I'm kind of internally polarized over it. There was a lot of stuff I liked, and there was a lot of stuff I didn't like. So we're gonna have a lot to dissect in our episode, Brian. It's gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Go changing back to Spooks Run Wild really quick. I think I said East End Kids, but it's East Side Kids.
Oh.
And anyway, it's 1941. It's a grand total of an hour and 5 minutes. I saw it on Amazon Prime, and
I gotta watch
that.
that.
If you're just interested, is it spectacular? No, but if there are lots of Bela Lugosi movies that people just have never seen, and if you appreciate his work, and especially where he was in his career after his kind of decline from fame, it's really interesting to see what he does and what he gets away with.
Yeah, well, if that's on Prime, I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Going back to Halloween Kills, I'll just say in a nutshell that Halloween, the original 1978, is just one of my all-time favorites, and so I've always been chasing after that high and failing and falling on my face with every sequel. Trying to reclaim that excitement, and I've just never found it. And it's sort of the law of diminishing returns with all the sequels. And as you guys know, the Halloween sequels really are just all over the map. But for me, because even though I know I'll probably be disappointed, I still always catch them. Halloween Resurrection is the only one that I specifically chose not to after Halloween H2O. I'm
Good
just
call.
Like, he killed him,
Yeah.
cut off his head. It's not going to be another Halloween movie unless it's the Friday the 13th Part 5 of Pretender Michael Myers. I just wasn't feeling that. But I was very excited for, yet disappointed with Halloween 2018. I really liked a lot of the choices that were there, especially the retcon elements of it. But I just found it to be disappointing at every turn, just based on the logic of the characters and their behavior. I have like a 3 strikes rule of logic, and you start doing things that just make no sense just because it looks cool, you lose me. So for me, especially as I did a rewatch with Halloween 2018 this week leading up to Halloween Kills, I was reminded of my tremendous disappointment with that film, even though I like elements of it, especially the John Carpenter score and Cody Carpenter and so on. So while Halloween Kills is incredibly polarizing with a lot of the fans, I was very entertained. I enjoyed it. And I think it's because I really didn't care at all. And it had nowhere to go but up. And so, I'll lastly say, without dwelling on it, because I know you're going to do a whole separate episode on this, but for me, there's so many of these movies that we look back for, and we don't judge, we just enjoy. And we know that they're not perfect, and we appreciate the imperfections and the fun and the kills and the practical effects and the music and whatever it may be, the time capsule of the era. So I think this one will sort of endure when people look back on it and they're not so close to it. And I think they'll appreciate it a little more, or not.
Yeah, and I also think, and I know we'll save this for the show too, but I think another part of the problem is that we were all, yeah, I mean, basically we were expecting it last year, so a lot of people now like had this hype built up, and then they got
A
dashed,
2-year
and
build
then
up.
they waited again for another year for it to come. And by that point, everyone assumed that everyone would be flocking to the theater, and a lot of people still saw it in the theater, made a killing, so to speak, in the box office. And while still being available at home, that a lot of people watch. So I have to say it had an impressive thing. So I mean, but I have a feeling though that also that excitement, now with the second year of buildup for it, might have. I wonder if that is. I think to your point of that, when I think the people that really maybe didn't like it, once they step back from it a bit and rewatch it, and I think they're just really trying. Those middle movies are are sometimes hard when you're in a trilogy, as you know. I mean, very few hit the mark properly. I mean, we know like Empire did it great, of course, but
Yeah.
but some movies that, that middle movie, it's tough because you're trying to come up with a sequel, but also try and set up the finale. And so, but well,
And if you think of it, this trilogy really is just sort of a straight shot, and we're halfway through,
Yeah. So, but
we'll
let Tim explain himself in the episode.
Yeah, I was
Math is hard.
Yeah. So David, let's get into your latest exciting project, which is, of course, In Search of Darkness Part 3. I was telling you a little bit before we started recording that I might be looking forward to this one as much as I love Part 1 and 2. I might be looking forward to this one even more, just because it's really getting into some deep cut titles that have not been seen before, and I'm positive I'm going to find some gems in here that I haven't seen, because as much as an 80s horror fan as I am, I've watched a lot of the classics that have come to the surface over the decades. It's not a decade that I've really dug super, super deep into. So, of course, the trilogy is going to be a combined 9 hours. Is that correct? Of 80s?
Well, it's 9 hours now.
It's
9 hours now. Okay.
Yeah.
I was misreading our question.
4.5 hours, and we're looking at probably a 13-hour stretch. No bathroom breaks.
Nice. Sweet.
Oh, and by the way, David, your second film, that made it work too. So it's not like a Halloween Kill. It definitely, everyone can agree that your second of the trilogy worked well.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't, until you just mentioned it now, I didn't think that you were talking about my awkward second film, but
no, it was great.
Pain. Listen, it's the Jan Brady of the In Search of Darkness trilogy. What can I say?
No, it was great. I mean, we loved the first one, and I couldn't wait for another 4.5 hours of more. That the fact that there's a third one coming out now, which will hopefully you'll tell us about a little about what you can tell us about now. I like, this is like we're playing with house money. Like, I did not expect a third thing, and so we're really excited. So
I want to hear about this.
You and me both. We didn't at Creator VC, Robin Block and our whole team. We did not expect to be making a third when we made that first one, and we made the second one. We really thought this is kind of going to be it. But the reception was just so positive from so many people for Part 2. That once we started really sort of expanding the scope to worldwide cinema and deeper cuts and more eclectic choices. And I mean, the decade of 80s horror had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films made. And it's very different from other genres in that we as fans really appreciate all of them for different reasons that are close to our heart. And one person's, microwave massacre is another person's, I don't know, dead ringers or something like that. There's just high and low. We all have these. They're all important to us for different reasons. And there are just so many more to go. And the encouragement has been incredibly positive to keep on going. And, people just love to put this on, whether it's for their list for what to watch around the spooky season, or to refresh their memories, or to learn about new things, or reinforce what they already knew but learn some new factoids along the process, or simply hang around with some of the most iconic names and faces and personalities in horror from a decade that we all love, as if we're all hanging out in the back of a bar until 3 a.m, chit-chatting and having drinks and telling tales. So we get to do it more. And so we're going to get some new faces. We're going to bring back many of the old faces. And we're going to deep dive into a lot of the underbelly of 80s horror, the dusty VHS shelves and straight to video, shot on video, theatrical releases that we just haven't gotten to yet. I mean, there's some pretty well-known ones that we just haven't been able to fit in yet. You'd think with 4.5 hours, there's plenty of space, but still haven't done Serpent and the Rainbow. Still haven't done, Monkey Shines. There's so many, I mean, that's like Wes Craven and George Romero haven't even, movies that haven't even been touched yet. So, and the coolest thing about this, which I really relish, is that everyone, we're running a campaign until Halloween, stroke of midnight. Go to 80shorrordoc.com. You can see all the stuff that you get, the swag and the movies and the back catalog if you haven't gotten those, physical copies, in addition to digital. But what's cool about it is that you guys get to choose. We're incorporating everyone, and if you're a backer, you get to suggest and vote on and choose a good chunk of the material that we're going to be covering, from the movies to even the chapters in between. And I can't wait to see what everyone wants, because I know what I want and I know what I've got going in the movie, but there's a very large section of this film, more than half of it, that is just a big blank slate that you guys get to choose.
That's awesome. And, I have to say, I have a feeling like, one of the things we've mentioned this before, that, I think one of the, like our generation, grew up on that 80s horror, going to the video store, going to see that stuff, and purposely picking up the most obscure, crazy title that you've never heard of.
Sometimes
so I have a feeling this one,
art, right?
yeah, it is. And I have a feeling that's why this one could be literally, in some ways, while it may not have the upper echelon of 80s horror in terms of like, critical success, this may have this segment may turn out to be the best one of the three, just because it's going to be so, it's going to come from like, people's memories and what's really near and dear to their heart. That night, I remember when I took my girlfriend home and we rented, like, I don't know, you said Microwave Massacre, but I'm trying to think of something even more obscure than that.
But you're making a perfect point, because these movies are more than just the movies themselves. It's the memories around them. It's the happy memories. It's the nostalgic memories, whether it's discovering it on your own or having someone introduce it to you, or escaping into it when you were probably a little too young and shouldn't have been watching, but you got access to it anyway, or the people that you were with, and, the memories that you built around sitting down and watching, a fun, arguably ridiculous horror movie. And these are the best memories ever. And so that's the vibe of this whole film, is just the fun of all these things and the happy memories, and, learn a little bit more along the way and be introduced to some of the stranger, more eclectic, more ridiculous, more entertaining, more outrageous titles.
Yeah, I've mentioned on the show before that, me and my buddy Dan lived up the street. We used to go up to the video store, and we would, this was before Blockbuster, the little mom and pop shops, and we would purposefully look for the title that had the most dust on the cover. I mean, literally in the horror section, the one with the most faded, sun faded cover, the one that nobody's ever touched. And that's what we would rent. And we'd rent them, every Friday or Saturday night. That's what we'd come back with. And had no clue what it was about.
He also came back with a severe allergy to dust.
Yeah.
But other than
Exactly.
That's how I saw the Gestapo's last orgy, by the way.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I'll never forget that
story.
Yeah.
I remember.
Tim, you got to pick that. Pick that for David's doc. You got to pick that.
There you go. Well, listen, I'm
I don't know if
open
it's
to
80s or
all suggestions from day one of 1980 to last day of 1989. But I had a teacher. I lived in a dorm, and I had this teacher. I went to a boarding school, and he would gather all the people on this is back in the day when you could do this and no parents would either know or care or get angry. And he would have Sick Puppy Playhouse. And he'd play these video rentals of terrible films. That's the first time I ever saw Toolbox Murders, was, and Mr. Newton's Sick Puppy Playhouse. And that's like one of those very happy, fond memories of mine that I don't think my parents ever knew about.
Yeah, that's what I think will be, but what'll be so cool about this though, because I think even the most like like ardent horror fan that claims to know every single movie, I think even they will be blown away. I have a feeling with some titles that they may not have seen, and that'll be fun. You almost need to do like a bonus feature, some kind of reaction of all the people that get it, and like for the and kind of go like almost like a 3.5. Not that I want to give you more work to do after this, because I know after 14 plus hours of 80s horror,
I'm tired. Yeah.
You're gonna need a break. But that would be a cool thing if you got like you told everybody, say, hey, what, send in a little snippet or something of like what you discovered on this that you may not have known. That'd be a cool little compilation piece, even to throw on the website.
There's all sorts of ideas and discussions and plans in the works to incorporate our community and the backers and everyone who loves this so much, to make sure that they feel like they're very much part of this process. So, in addition to interacting with us as we're making the film, to perhaps asking questions to certain people being interviewed, to suggesting and then voting on favorites. There's so much to come and so much to be determined, and I'm excited to get the ball rolling. But first, I got to finish In Search of Tomorrow.
Oh my God, that's
so
right.
I'm-
Yeah, I know that's because I have that already. I did the Kickstarter for that, so I got that in there.
Yeah,
I'm waiting. I'm gonna have like a whole
neck
like
deep in that. I'm neck deep in that while we're doing our campaign for In Search of Darkness. I'm whittling down like a 6+ hour cut of In Search of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm
Just
gonna
one
literally
half.
have like a David Weiner section on the monolith. You're gonna have your own shelf by this point because when I have all the movies, 'Cause
Well,
I
I'm
hope
gonna
you
need
keep going
I'm gonna
afterwards.
need a cot after this is all done for a very long nap.
Yeah, definitely. So I know this is kind of hard to answer, but because this one, of course, it's still in kind of production, and it's still like you said, the open slate. But is there anything that you think that you really want to have on this doc that you don't know if you'll be able to get? I mean, with 14 hours probably worth of material, I find that almost like impossible.
You mean
But-
like literally get my hands on a particular title that's hard to get, or
or just any kind of feature that you don't think will make it for any reason or anything. I mean, I can't imagine at this point with 14 hours, like it's gonna have much.
You would
to
think
left.
so. There's just so many ways to skin a cat, so to speak, and there's is endless ways to approach all this material, and so many avenues we still haven't even taken. And what happens is, a combination of the material that still hasn't been used from our first two films. Some of that will make it into this. The majority of it will be brand new stuff. And it'll all be new to you. Nothing old is going to be used in terms of like seeing it again. But, for 65 people, I did interviews with everyone, 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours of material. And
Oh,
so
wow.
if you sort of cross section that and you put it in 9 hours of film, it's still a lot more that hasn't even seen the light of day. So I mentioned that stuff because a lot of that points to avenues of conversation that I'm creating brand new topics on, because we discussed it and we tangentially got on it, and then I never made a chapter about it, And so there's a multitude of ways to keep talking about this until the sun comes up.
All I know is I cannot wait till the third one comes out, and I can do like literally, I'm just going to take a Saturday and just sit down and watch from beginning to end, because I've already seen the first two a couple of times. But I definitely watch the third one, of course. I'm going to do the Kickstarter tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I keep forgetting to do it, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then, and I can't wait to have like a massive marathon of like all of it, because I've never had 4.5 hours go by so quick though. When you watch these things, you would think that it would be hard, and it's like, it goes like that and I think it's because of all the things we've talked about. There's just great topics, the clips, the memories, everything comes back. So it's almost like it was there all along. So it doesn't feel like you're losing time. It feels like you're gaining time in a weird way,
And I always want to, give credit to Samuel Way, who edits these. I script it, he edits it, he puts it together, and then we fine tune it. And he just has an innate intuition as to how to make this stuff flow and just move. And working together with him is just a dream, because the way it's structured, the formula really is, it's like everything, you're on one for 2, 3, 4 minutes, but then you're on to the next, really, and then the chapters are a little longer. But whatever you're on, it's constantly moving. Even within a chapter on a subject, it's constantly going to different avenues and different sort of subtopics and things like that. And so you're constantly sitting there just saying, okay, next one, I'll take a break. And then next one comes up, you're like, oh, wait, okay, after this one. The next thing you know, hours have gone by, and you should have worn a diaper, really.
So, David, after the long nap, when this is all done, do you have any ideas of what you'd like to tackle next, or is that just to be determined?
Well, we're determining what's going to be exactly next, but we have lots of things cooking in the kitchen at Creator VC, and that's other decades and other genres. So we're already talking about horror, 90s horror, 70s horror, who knows what else beyond that. But there's an appetite for it. And as long as there's an appetite for the movies we're making and the different decades of the genre, it's just an endless supply of material and amazing content that we can cover. And then other genres as well. Want to keep on going with sci-fi. We're talking about potentially doing fantasy. Creator VC, Robin Block it's his company. He's got another team working on a video game doc called FPS, first person shooter, about that kind of stuff. And he wants to continue, along the video game route, and who knows? In Search of Pixels might be happening.
Oh my God, so, you have us sold already.
Or if you do a 70s horror, just shut up and take my money.
Yeah,
there you go.
Pretty much, just put us down for anything you come up with.
Well, let me ask you guys: if I said, what should I do next? 70s horror or 90s horror? What would you say?
I would be 70s all the way.
Yeah, Tim and I would be 70s right away.
People who listen to the show know I love 70s horror.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to go. Well, plus you got to follow in the steps of George Lucas. You got to go backwards. First you do the 3, then you go to do the prequels.
It's the prequel trilogy. There you go.
Yeah, then you go back after. So. But that would definitely, if Tim and I had a choice in it, we'd say 70s. But speaking of that, so before we go though, just want to have you let everyone know again about the Kickstarter and if you want to go through some of the perks and where they can find it and everything.
Yeah, sure. It's actually not specifically a Kickstarter in that it's on our own site. We're crowdfunding it, but it's like a Kickstarter. It's being crowdfunded. So if you go to 80shorrordoc.com, 80shorrordoc.com, and all the socials are 80s horror doc. If you go to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and we are running our crowdfunding. It's basically pre-order, so you get your name in the credits. If you guys want to put your podcast in the credits instead of your name, you could do that.
That's what I do. I always make sure we're in there on all of them.
But so there's that, and you get access to our online Discord community, which is cool. And there's a bunch of cool things, there's different levels of support, but everyone gets, a Blu-ray and a bunch of cool posters and a pin and digital copies, and basically access to be able to talk to me and Robin and our team as we go along, and we can show you stuff early on as we're going. And it's a transparent relationship, basically, where it's not like you spend money and you wait for a year. There's a whole process in between now and when it comes out a year from now. And the most important part is that you guys choose, and I genuinely can't wait to see what people want, because that's going to dictate what's going to be in this movie. And that's super cool. And I'm not sure how often anyone really offers up that kind of arrangement, yet you still know what you're going to get, because if first and the second film are any indication, the third is going to be that much more fun.
That's cool. That's awesome.
But we're running until the last hour of the last bell of midnight on Halloween night.
Nice. That is awesome. Yeah, and of course, anyone that's listened to our show, we've been raving about these docs and all your work on that since we were introduced a couple of years ago.
And they're currently, sorry, just to interject, but they're currently on Shudder, In Search of Darkness.
Right, that's right.
So you can catch those there if you like, or it's on Amazon Prime or AMC Plus. And if and when you want a physical copy, even though we're coming out with 3, you can back order part 1 and part 2. And if you want like a box, a slipcase where you can have all 3 as a trilogy in one box, there's various upgrades to sort of for any collector. And the poster art, by Ratchet Loft and Dave Morrell are spot on and so cool. And one is this amazing nostalgic, video store by Ratchet Loft and Dave Morrell. Both of those guys did our posters for the last campaign. along with Clayton, our in-house artist who does the 1 and the 2 and the 3. He did that one as well. So the other one, the Dave Morrell one, is like a grave digger, which you call the curator, and you're in the grave looking up. It's really fun.
Yeah, I have the previous posters because I always usually order that Blu-ray one with all the little bonus things. So I love those things. I can't wait. I just haven't have a space yet to put them on. I want to get them all framed.
Space, right? Clayton Benge, by the way, I think I just said Clayton, but Clayton Benge is our incredibly talented artist.
Yeah, no, those posters I want to frame.
Clayton. Yes.
But yeah, so thank you so much again for coming on, because we always enjoy you. I think we need to make it a yearly tradition, whether you have a movie out or not. Just every Halloween time, you got to come on and we can catch up and chat about the spooky season that we all.
Well, I'm happy to speak to you guys, because I think the last time we spoke was like a calendar year ago, when we were, back then it was so sweet. COVID was so new, and
yeah, it was in its baby stages.
It was in its baby, watching little baby steps of COVID, and it was just like I was listening to some of it, and I was just like, this is definitely a different vibe, and here we are, and we're still going to a certain degree, obviously, and I'm glad everyone is staying safe and being smart.
Yeah, well, Tim and I first really did our first theme park, which we love doing. Just recently we went to Halloween Horror Nights in September, and that was we were a little nervous to go, but it was in Florida, so but we did it. We were careful, and we had an awesome time. It was good to be back. It was felt weird a little bit, I think, to me. I don't know, Tim, if you felt that way, just being out in the that world again. But
well, hopefully next year will be a little bit better, a little bit better.
Yeah. I'd like to think by next year we'll be definitely way more back to
that's what I thought last year.
Right. Yeah. Let's just don't push Halloween ends back. That's all.
I can only laugh, otherwise I'll cry.
I hear you. Well, so thanks again, David. This is great to have you come on, and we'll put all of those information in the show notes. And I don't think there's a higher thing that Tim and I would give our stamp of approval on than these documentaries. So so make sure if you listen to anything that Tim and I say, this is definitely,
yes,
I know I tend to ramble more than anybody, but make sure that this filter out all the other stuff I say. This one take for certain. You need to get these docs. You need to watch these docs, and definitely, if you can, give us support for the third one, which you can, as David said, you can be part of, and you can actually make a choice on it. So you can't complain that you're what you wanted wasn't in there if you don't put it in. So
right, you get to drive a lot of the content. So take advantage of it.
Oh, by the way, I do have one suggestion. I think it's somewhere down the road you need to do In Search of Podcasts. And then, Tim and I will be featured in a segment somewhere,
There you go. You're driving the content right now.
There you go.
Off the cliff.
right down the toilet.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to watch that, Brian.
Especially not 4.5 hours worth of it.
That's why we're
maybe
audio
4.5
only.
seconds of Tim and I in there, but that's good. Yeah.
I'll do a quick plug if you don't mind. Just
sure.
on the socials, if anyone's remotely interested, is that you could go to Tiki Ambassador on Twitter, and I have my site itcamefromblog.com, or the socials are it came from blog on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. If you're remotely interested in lots of pop culture brain droppings and sort of a steady feed directly from the back of my brain.
Yeah, no, you always have some great stuff. I love following your Twitter. So
it's therapeutic for me. Like I can't. It's very hard to articulate how cool this age is that we live in, where it's sizable or small. If I have a thought, I can look something up, find an image, find an article, find something, copy it, paste it, put it on Twitter, say a little thing about it, and I get the utmost joy when one person sees it and says, "Oh my God, I haven't thought of this since I was a kid." And that to me makes it all worthwhile and just fun, and it's like a quick, painless process, and it's really just sort of all this random pop culture, minutia sitting in my brain that I get to sort of, siphon out bit by bit and put it on the internet, and if people care, great. If they don't, that's fine too.
Well, look at that time you put the little thing about the Scarsdale movie theater closing. It led to a 3-hour back and forth discussion of all the stuff we used to visit in Westchester.
All I could say is that makes still, yeah. I tell the Scarsdale movie theater. So they're, for those not in the know, in Westchester County, New York, there's the Scarsdale Plaza, which no longer exists. They raised it and turned it into condos. But it was the last stop for movie prints before movie print heaven, and it had a new movie every week, and it was 99 cents to go see it. And that was like our childhood, seeing so many amazing films there, and I just have such great memories, and I love to tell this one tale that, I wanted to see Alien so bad when it came out in 1979, but I was 11 years old, and my parents were like, no, you'll get, my mom said, no, you will get nightmares. It's not going to happen. And so it came and went in theaters, but then it came to the Scarsdale Plaza for that last week run. And I begged and pleaded to my mom, please let me see it, please. I know everything about it. I have the photo novel. I've read the Alan Dean Foster tie-in. I know everything. There will be no surprises. No, you'll have nightmares. And then a week later, my dad looks at me and he says, so you want to see that Alien movie? And it was gone.
Oh
no.
Did that lead to the doc thing, In Search of Alien? Is that what?
Yeah, in search of the toys my mom threw out when I was at summer camp one summer. That's
I hate hearing those stories. That gives me nightmares, hearing those stories about toys getting thrown out like without your knowledge.
Well, we all have it. We've all had that, listen, ideally we all love our moms, and I do love my mom, but there was that one summer when she's like, he's old, he doesn't need these stuff. And he threw out my everything from my Kenner $6 Million Man to
I remember
who knows what. But at least all my Star Wars Kenner figures, they were preserved, and they survived the toss. But and that movie story ended up as a happy ending because my dad said, well, Alien's not playing, but what is playing? And it was Frank Langella in John Badham's Dracula. And it was the first rated R movie that I was allowed to go to. And it turned out to be a really great film. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I think that may be my first R-rated movie. I remember my mom wanted to see it, and I was too young, and she couldn't get a babysitter, but she brought me in anyway. And I still remember getting creeped out by the scene where he was crawling up the building towards the kind of like towards the town.
Crawling up the side of the building, or like the daughter, Papa, in the catacombs. Yeah, oh my God, with the little beady red eyes, and it's got a John Williams score. It's a really great film.
Yeah, I still need to buy that. I keep forgetting to order it every time Shout Factory has those sales, they have that in there, and I forget to order it.
That's one of those ones I won, Brian, in that
contest.
You
won that. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won a Shout Factory vampire Blu-ray giveaway, and so I got I don't remember how many titles, like 6 or 7 vampire titles. It was pretty awesome, but that was one of them.
Oh, that's very good.
That's a great movie.
There were early releases of that film where it wasn't properly color timed, because Badham wanted it to be more black and white, and the studio wanted it to be more color. And I think they argued until someone yanked it out of their hands and just put them on screens. So the first video releases, it's very uneven in terms of the color timing. Sometimes it feels black and white, sometimes it feels color, sometimes it's halfway, but it's very odd. But I think they finally got their act together and got a good version of it. I also saw Frank Langella perform live on Broadway as Dracula in Edward Gorey's Dracula, which I think was pretty much the inspiration to get him to be playing Adams movie. But that was really fun, because that was very witty, and you got these classic Edward Gorey designed sets, and lots of humor. I remember my mom took me, and she's just like, I'm doing you a favor for your birthday. And she ended up really being much more entertained, where she thought she would be like snoozing. Awesome. Happy memories. Anyway, I've gone on tangents where now we're just talking about nostalgia, but that's what this is all
which
about.
We would be probably all night if we didn't stop at stop at some point. But I know Tim is just struggling here. He's just fighting his cold. But
yeah, the joys of kids. They just spread it all around.
I hear you.
But yeah, thanks so much, David, for coming on. We were super excited about this one, as we have been for the first two parts, of course. And it's always a pleasure talking to you about pop culture, because we're all kind of roughly the same generation of kids who grew up on this stuff, and it's just so much fun to talk about.
Nerds of a feather, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like a podcast title right there.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh yeah, anytime.
Anytime.
All right, take care.